Welcome to the Income and Impact Summit, where game-changing entrepreneurs gather to introduce you to the tools, technology, and habits we're using to make the world a better place and get you to a state of freedom and philanthropy. I'm your host, Tracy Repchuk, and today's guest is Christine Campbell Rapin, who is a three-time international best-selling author, has a Bachelor of Commerce and an MBA in International Business, and is a tell it like it is business advisor, mentor, consultant, and speaker with more than 25 years experience in marketing, sales, operations, working with startups to the biggest companies on the planet. As the owner of Clear Acceleration, she believes that business can be elegantly simple when you know what to focus on to create success, and helps you define activities that can predict your revenue in the next 90 days. And she'll guide you with her topic, Fractured to Focused, 3 non-negotiables to ignite your client growth in the next 90 days. Christine, welcome to the summit.
Thank you. It's going to be a blast. This is such an amazing community you brought together. I'm so thrilled to be part of it.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. I love your topic. It is so key and important, and you're being such a wonderful contributor. So I want to ask you that one main question that I've been asking everybody, because it's intimate to the why, the purpose, the why do we serve as entrepreneurs, right? And that is, when and why did you become an entrepreneur?
It's an interesting story. I did know from a young age that I wanted to create a business. My earliest memory of childhood games was playing shopkeeper and actually creating my own boutique in the basement. But truly, the moment as an adult came by when I was 1,400 kilometers away from home as a rock star in the world of corporate. And I walked into the hotel lobby after a week on the road and saw HR and my boss sitting in the lobby and thought, my life is going to change in a heartbeat. And so I took a giant breath and thought, face the music. And they let me go unexpectedly with a very big check. So I wouldn't be taking 30 of my top performing clients on a vacation trip halfway around the world. And I was left reeling. And they got on a plane and flew home, but they didn't give me the same courtesy. I actually had to spend the next 17 hours in that hotel overnight, really far from home, with my life detonated, trying to figure out, how did I let this happen? Like, what? Why didn't I see it coming? All of that. And I spent most of the night on the bathroom floor, I'll be honest, calling my then fiance to say, babe, that house we want to buy, off the table. You're going to have to tell these 2 new bonus kids that I'm about to become a massive hot mess in front of. And I eventually got to the place where I was like, I'm never going to be at risk in this way for somebody else. So truthfully, my choice to start being an entrepreneur was selfish. It was a risk mitigation strategy for myself. And it came from a decision, fast forward about a month, when one of my team members who reported to me called me and said, they didn't backfill your job. We've all gotten home. We all are shocked that you weren't there, but would you help me get the job? And I thought, wow, I'm hardly breathing and you want me to help you get the job I just vacated. And I got to sit there for a second and said, who am I? Am I the person they think I am that didn't need to take those people who had helped create massive success in business with, or the person my team thought I was that said I would help them find the dream job? And I said, I'm going to be the person that helps them. And so I did help them. They got the job, and I made a commitment. It was time to be open-minded to what being an entrepreneur would look like, because it was time to start building my and story. And I built my first business working at an hour a day. It eventually led to so many people saying, how do you actually find clients? That it gave birth to the global consultancy business I have today.
I love that. I mean, obviously not the ideal situation, but I've heard this time again, right? It's not an unusual story to be displaced by a corporation, and
Yeah.
then people have that decision: do I find the next job, or do I take
Mhm.
control of my life? And that's what you did, right? You were like,
And who do I
no,
want to be? Ultimately, this
exactly,
is such an important question. Who do you want to
yeah,
create impact with?
yeah.
That's a choice.
And it goes back to the interesting part, right? That I talk about with a legacy life, which is you're on a mission, you have a purpose that only you can do. And
Mhm.
there's 4 main areas, that those decision points where you actually either decide now that you're going to do what you're supposed to be doing, happens. And one of them, of course, is a tragic, a loss, a force type of situation, and that's how you began. And as you know, hindsight 2020, those are the gifts, right?
Yes. The
Obviously,
plot
and
twist. I call them plot twists. Many years
yes.
ago, I got this piece of letter. Somebody sent me something, a card of some kind. That said, when in a movie or in a book, when there's a huge plot twist, you turn the page to figure out what comes next. And when life throws you some very big curveballs, it will. You're not paying attention. You're dallying in the wrong path. The best advice I could give myself was plot twist. I guess I have to figure this out, and I
Hmm.
did. Took some time,
And
but we
that's
figured it
yeah,
out,
it's a great
and you
way to
can.
frame, yeah, what you
Yeah.
just said. Like, hey, this is we're not going to call it an obstacle. We're not going to call it a tragedy, even though we got it, they are, but we'll
Yeah.
call it a plot twist because if you're watching your own movie or you're watching something on television, that's what's going to happen, right? Everything's wonderful and peachy and they're totally in love and all of a
And then your
sudden, I'm
lungs get
sorry.
sucked out.
Exactly. That's right. The air gets pulled out, the carpet gets dragged,
Yeah.
and you're on your back. And
Yeah.
that, yeah, it seems to be that thing in life. So two questions from this. One,
Mhm.
what year was that you were like, okay, here's my new business now. I'm starting this consultancy business. And did you bring the skill set that you had from, the corporation, and that's what you continued to apply in your own business?
Yeah, it was probably around, I'm going to say 2018 was when I started to build the first business. 2019, I think, is when we incorporated and started to build the consultancy because it wasn't like I decided. Truth me, it never occurred
Hmm.
to me. It's funny in hindsight, it never occurred to me to build a global consultancy doing what I do. And
Hmm.
yes, what I do today is very based on my skill set from corporate. I have a very unique corporate background in two very distinct ways. I have been highly successful in marketing, sales, and operations independently. My success as a strategist and business mentor today is I know how to build an engine to actually create results all through
Hmm.
those pieces. The second piece of the puzzle that made me really successful in corporate was that I worked in 9 unrelated industries in my career. And I mean unrelated, from beauty to manufacturing to first responders to pharmaceuticals. Like, to me, a product is just a product. And so as a consultant, it's very important that people are like, but my product is so different. I'm like, you do business with people and you need to understand how to do business. The product is where you're the expert. The world of business is where I'm the expert. Together, we create a faster path. And so I did take the skills of corporate into what I did. And it started by people constantly buying me coffee or glasses
Hmm.
of wine. And they're like, what are you doing 1 hour a day? Which was my first business that is creating clients. I'm like, you've got to focus on income producing activities. And in my career, like all of my business life, I've helped people create $1 billion. I get
Hmm.
hired to help people make money. That's what I got hired in corporate for. And
Hmm.
now I said, how about we figure out how you can create client growth and revenue and profit and run a beautifully boring business so that you can create impact and do other things? Because this roller coaster you've created, one, it is not the only option. And two, it is totally the one that you fabricated by the choices, the actions, and what you don't know. And by
Hmm.
no means did any of us start business knowing what the heck we were doing.
Hmm.
None of us. Like, we all start at zero. We all have a different level of skills, but we have to equip ourselves with right people, right knowledge, right beliefs, and a steadfastness to, I am the spark of this, and everyone around me is a fuel source. And so, where my business is today, after many cups of coffee and glasses of wine, I kept being asked, like, I can see it, Christine. I can see the simplicity of what you say, but inevitably it would be, I can't apply it. I said, well, we must equip you to do that. And so I have a very high touch, high support path with my clients because I said the knowledge gap is one thing. It's easily solved. Don't dissuade
Hmm.
yourself. Knowledge is so readily available in our current world. The challenge is applying it to your life, your path, your vision. And most importantly, here's the tell if you're doing it right. We talked about having our lungs sucked out and not being able to breathe. I tell people really candidly, if your business doesn't feel like oxygen, you're building somebody else's plan. That's not to say
Mhm.
that it's the only thing in your life, but my friends, this is the thing that should feel like fire for you because it's your path. And if you need fuel sources, like I am a fuel source to my clients, please add them into the mix because it changes everything and it should feel like oxygen. It should be fun. And the most important thing I think is it should be at the end of the day, there's going to be lions in the water on occasion. It's going to be some plot twists, but you have to sit easy at the end of the day, which is a lesson my parents taught me, which is at the end of the day, was it worth it? And that's a
Mhm.
personal reflection. And so if it doesn't feel like oxygen, course correction is on the horizon. Whether you choose the timing or life kicks you a plot twist, I don't think you're going to get away from it. You're just trying to defer it. So
Yep.
take the band-aid off
Yeah,
and
I mean,
deal with it.
and that goes to the exact premise of you're living your legacy life, not leaving it. Because it is about the enjoyment, it's about the journey, it's about getting to that state of abundance where you can deliver from your overflow and
Mhm.
whether that be philanthropically or in whatever way you want to share the wealth, so to speak. And yeah, when I began, I started a software company at the age of 19, directly out of college, knew nothing. I knew how to be a computer programmer, right? But you learn darn fast as you're sitting there. I had to take out loans to buy a computer, which was 25,000, and a printer, which was 8,000, and all these costs people don't see today necessarily. And so then I had to start, paying that back and making money and figuring out how does one do this? And that's back in the day where there was only the phone or door to door. Those are the two
Well, and those are
choices.
still some of the most effective ways you will grow your business today. Like, I think we have
Yep,
lost sight in
we
our
did.
choice to believe it needs to be complex. The
Yeah,
truthfully old school, high touch, high conversation, foot on the ground is
yeah.
still the fastest path to knowledge, experience, yeses, and more offers.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I'm a high ticket. I teach my people how to premium price, and then
Mhm,
we go high touch, right? Let's
mhm.
just find those whatever. 10
Yeah,
people, like $1 million, and there you go. Let's
yeah,
be super simple here. And
think
that
slow.
premise came back to the simplicity of where I began. We started
Mhm.
adding technology and we added social media and we added the autoresponders, which none of that I'm against. They have their place, but they are
Yes.
not the substitute for you actually doing what needs to be done. Yeah.
100%. And it is they are accelerants.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have a proof of concept, a minimal viable product, if you come from the world of corporate and you don't
Yep.
understand some very, very, very basic questions, who are you? Where do you want to play? Why will you win
Mm-hmm.
there? And what do you need to equip yourself to win frequently? Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. And trust me, it is
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate, but there's a lot of people who will take your money in the smoke and mirrors, promising
Yep.
that. But if you have a fundamental confusion and a lack of certainty around what you are looking for and why you're
Mm-hmm.
the must hire, not just a likable expert, my friend, you are going to spin because you only have one booster firing. And
Yep.
again, we totally see it. We've been there and we're living
Mm-hmm.
from the experience of it. I
Mm-hmm.
invite you to see it's not the only option because it is unfortunate and an easy thing to course correct when you go, oh, I'm hearing some very basic, simple things.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
truthfully, if I slow down enough to ask those questions, I don't think I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now
Yeah,
is the time.
it totally is. And I've taking people back to five fundamentals. I'm like,
Yeah.
we aren't building, we don't need to build websites right now. We don't need to build a list right now. If you have one, excellent. We don't need to be building landing pages, lead gens. All of that comes later. We just need to, as you say, create a viable product. And we do that
Mhm.
through feedback sessions and testing before we even build it. And unless people say yes to the concept, we're not even going to build it
That's right.
until you
Love
until
it.
you get that. Yeah. And so
Because
as
you're
you
building a field
say,
of dreams. If you think
yeah,
you'll build it and they will come, my friends, you'd have to be one in a million. And trust me, there are
yeah,
unicorns. I believe
yeah.
there are. But guys, it's
Hmm.
much, much harder to be the unicorn.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the
Yeah.
skills, knowledge, or bankroll for it,
For sure.
you need to hear this and sit with it and go, okay, what else could I do instead? And be
Right.
curious.
Exactly. And it's interesting, and because I don't know about your client base and age group, but I am serving an age group where they're done working, 90, 100 hours in a week. And if you want a unicorn, that's your life, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
just build
And
a
most
nice,
people don't
practical,
hear that.
easy business. Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
I and
So
I think
cool.
it's true because I was a corporate, very successful corporate executive running very
Yeah.
big teams, 300 people, many, many millions of
Mhm.
dollars, a lot, a lot, a lot. And yes, working 60 to 90-hour weeks is really common. I had my phone ring all 24 hours because I supported a business that ran 24/7.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, I was awesome. I was 35 and thought life was great. But I remember
Yeah.
hearing advice from my parents, like, you're going to wake up 5 years from now and wonder, where did your life go? And so I
Hmm.
make a very intentional choice now. I don't build a business to run the equivalent speed. I get have a far more intentional choice around what my commitments, my hours, my stuff are. But I
Yeah.
say to people, our answer to scale isn't more unless you're doing diddly squat, in which case you're not doing what's required in order to get what you want. We need to at least get to that level. But you can
Yeah.
tell me, Christine, I'll build it 1 hour a day and it will take me 20 years. No
Hmm.
problem. Or you say, I
Hmm.
need to get there in 18 months. I'm like, okay, well, it's taking more than an hour a day. Let's just set that clear. And that's the
Yeah.
truth teller in me that says, I've been at startup and solopreneurs and mom and pops, and I've also been at the biggest company on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
My friends, there's still a business math equation that if you want better outputs, you have to be aware of intentional inputs. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's much to be said for repetition, time, and choosing your speed, because not all seasons are Mach 10.
Yeah.
You can't quit the field, because I think one of the things I observed in so many conversations early before I started the consultancy was that you were doing the hokey pokey.
Mm-hmm.
Your sprint for a month and then nothing worked and sky's falling and give up is part of the reason that you don't see momentum build. I
Mm-hmm.
was very clear at the beginning, 1 hour a day, non-negotiable. And that 1 hour led to a crescendo, and people say, wow, your business is a massive momentum. I said, momentum didn't start last week because I chose to get my red notebook and go to Starbucks and journal it out.
Mm-hmm.
It has
Mm-hmm.
been a crescendo, and I commit to staying in momentum and choosing my speed. And guess what? Compound is the eighth wonder of the world. Things are
Mm-hmm.
starting to percolate. Opportunities are coming in bigger ways. And you can create that too. Stop
Awesome.
hokey pokey.
So I think that's going to bring us to these three non-negotiables to ignite your client growth. You touched on the one there, the 1 hour. Start with that, describe it a little more, and give us the other two.
Yeah, the first thing you need to really understand is that you need to be laser focused on who is your next client, customer, or buyer. Use whichever word feels most resonant to you in your industry. But truthfully, your next client is not the same as your current client. It's not the same as your past client, because those people are in a different decision moment in time. They've already decided you were great. They already faced their issue and they've already made a movement towards it. Your next buyer is in a different, earlier space. But when your people are saying, like, should I niche or should I not niche? Here's my take on it. If you want to find your next buyer, it's not about saying she's from Boise, Idaho, she's got red hair, she makes 150K a year, and she's got 2 dogs and a cat. Like, that avatar element you built is helpful in some elements of marketing. It is useless to find your next client, because the guy in front of you talking in Starbucks is probably your next client if you were listening to the conversation he was having. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a decision making moment. What's going on in their life that they're facing something and they need to make a decision? Your job to spot that pattern, see that pattern, interrupt that pattern will help you find your next client. So shift gears in your 1 hour a day minimum. It's getting really clear what's the pattern of the decision that they're facing, the line in the sand they're drawing for the thousandth time, that you're going to say, if I pop into it and bump into it with zero judgment, zero criticism, zero shame, zero blame, but say, I actually get the decision you're facing. There's options on the other side. Would you be curious about what one of them could look like? Your whole world will open up, because it's easier to move in movement with people than to create it. So don't do the hokey pokey. Find the people making the decisions and intersect them. That's number one.
Hmm.
Number two is really important. You've got to have a plan to move somebody from curious to paid client. I guess you friends, you can't go from a first date to a marriage proposal, and that's half your problem. You're moving too fast. You're talking in language they don't understand, and you're trying to sell a unicorn. And the perfect example of this is my friends, I love you, your financial advisor group. Financial advisor groups are trying to sell me on retirement, or they're trying to sell
Hmm.
me on financial freedom. Both are amazing things. But right now in my stage of life, that's not what I'm Googling. I'm looking for $300 to solve an emergent problem because I've got young, we've got kids and grandparents, and we've got in the middle mix. And so I'm like, right now, retirement is like a luxury item for me. And so
Hmm.
I walk right past you. But on average, Google said that there's a zero moment of truth. People research 7 to 12 experiences of a business before they phone them, email them, or show up in their ecosystem. So you have to have a plan, a strategic roadmap that helps people know, am I in the right place? What's going on? Do I trust you? Can you help me? And do I feel safe being vulnerable? It says, I have a decision that I've been crap at making, or my decisions that I've made in the past haven't turned out the way I expected. Is it me? And that is strategy. Everyone in business who wants their next client thinks the answer is another tactic. Oh my gosh, I must do SEO. Oh my God, now I need to be on
Hmm.
TikTok. Oh my God, now I need to adopt AI. I need to automate the living wazoo out of this business because that's apparently the only way I'll survive in this world. To our point we said earlier, those are accelerants. A
Hmm.
great tactic is not going to rescue you if you don't have a game plan to move somebody from curious to paid client. An industry average around the world, it takes 90 days. So if you're not great, it could take 180 or 3 years or 9 years. And trust me, I have clients that come into my business that have been on that longer cycle. I've also had people that have gone really, really quickly because we've mastered this in our business.
Hmm.
The tactic, you hear about it because it's working. If it's not working for you, it's not the tactic that's the problem. Is that likely you haven't a roadmap. And then the third piece of the puzzle, which is critical, is all about the offer. One, you have to make a heck of a lot more than you're making because money will only move hands if the offer is made. And an offer is not post on social media, buy my stuff. It's not, my friends, that's not what an offer is. And an offer needs to be important. It's two sides of the same coin. Both sides have to be equally weighted. Number one, do you understand the value perception for the next buyer? Because if the value isn't higher than the investment, money never moves. Second thing is they see you as a viable option, or they would never be asking you for an offer. But are you seen as a likable expert who's filled with knowledge? Or are you the must hire who's filled with knowledge and can help them apply it? You've got to be the must hire. And you've got to be clear you are going to make an offer, get paid for the guidance that you will bring, and you have to have certainty because in a sales conversation, certainty is a huge pendulum swing. And I tell people if you can build these three foundations, you know what to focus on, you know who to look for, you know how to move them in a human way. And when the moment comes, you will be opportunistic to take it and realize that an offer is about making a decision. The buyer to make a decision, it is not about whether it's a yes or a no. Guide people to make a decision because why did you intersect with them in the first place?
Hmm.
They were facing a decision. So help them make one. And it's not about persuasion, but it is influenced by certainty. Do that
I love all of
repeatedly.
that. Just back to that super simpleness, right?
Yeah.
Three easy steps. We didn't try to introduce like, oh, now you got to do this, and then you got to do these 52 steps on 5 different platforms in social media,
Mhm.
all of that. And I'm of the same thought. And that is, it's just become so overcomplicated. People don't realize what the simplicities are. And when you
Yeah.
go back to them, the game changes. And
Mhm.
all of those pieces start to slot into place and
Yeah.
create like you're talking about that solid foundation, that bridge from, you know, finding that client or bumping right into them wherever that may be and identifying their problem, moving them to a solution, making the offer to help them further, and then they make the decision. Don't, really don't hold on to anything after that.
Yeah. And when you do this, I said this becomes, I said, an engine, which is that beautiful,
Hmm.
boring,
Yeah.
repeatable
Yes.
success story. And I said, you and I both share in similar places. I said most businesses, dream about their next client.
Hmm.
And I said, this approach is always going to guarantee a next client, but it's not just one client. It is one client after next client after next client after next client. And truthfully, you can control when you have capacity and you can solve for it.
Hmm.
Everything else is a distraction. And if you stop doing the million things, you'll have that hour a day or 5 hours a
Hmm.
day to dedicate to this and to serve your clients. And if you do this every day of your business, guess what?
Hmm.
You're not going to be stressing at 3 o'clock in the morning, wondering where the heck's my next client coming from. And I said, well, two
Hmm.
things and just two protect your revenue. Have you made any offers lately? That might be really uncomfortable because all of us put up zeros. All of us get
Hmm.
really distracted and say, for the last week, I didn't make any offers. If you let that
Hmm.
bleed for 3 months, you're going to be in trouble. And number two, do you actually know who you are looking for? And if you don't know who that is, everything else should be put on pause because
Hmm.
you're wasting time, resources. You will eventually get frustrated. And I watch a lot of people go broke on the path of all the extra things. And I
Hmm.
said, but what do you want? And they're like, I just want this to work. I said, what is it you're wanting to work? Well, I want to deliver this. I said, you're answering the question out of sequence. You want to tell me
Right.
how you want to show up. How is a response to something? How is it relevant till I know what question's being asked? If I know
Hmm.
what they want, I can say, well, this is how you, and they go, oh, I want that. And I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you how to get it. Let me
Hmm.
tell you who you need to be to get there and who might be able to help you. Hi, that's me. I'm the must hire resource. And why do you want
Hmm.
it? If you want it, why aren't you going after it? Would you like me to make you an offer? Why aren't you making a
Hmm.
decision? It's very,
Hmm.
very, very, very straightforward. And
Yeah.
don't misunderstand. Simplicity is challenging. And that's why working with Tracy or working with me helps people like an onion. Keep
Yeah.
distilling it till it's not jargon. I think the biggest thing to ask yourself is, sounds good. Is it true?
Hmm. Right.
And keep
Yep.
asking till you go, it's laser. It's like a tuning fork. I'm
Hmm.
in the right place. I'm looking for the right people. The right people will resonate with this. And I am paying attention. My biggest marketing skill is not one you spend money on. It's observation. It's a
Beautiful.
critical human skill.
Yep. Absolutely love it. So thank you, Christine, for your amazing insights and wisdom connected to the Impact and Income Summit. It has been a pleasure exploring with you today. I've had so much fun.
It's been blast.
And I really appreciate the simplicity. So be sure to download the free gift that Christine has provided for you. And I invite you to stick around and catch our next amazing speaker. Plus, if you've missed some or just want to get all the VIP gifts valued at over $4,700, then grab the VIP bundle while you can. And be sure to claim your $1 ticket to the Legacy Life event. We're together in a 4-hour workshop. We're going to build your Legacy Life roadmap to make this the highest income and biggest impact year ever. Let's continue our journey and learn more from our next speaker.